He didn't hesitate, scooping her into the passenger seat of his battered Ford. Elias gunned the engine, headlights carving a yellow path through the blizzard. The drive was a blur of white-knuckled turns and Lila's whimpers, her tiny hand fisted in his sleeve. When they reached the abandoned homestead, a sagging relic of rusted tin and forgotten dreams, he spotted her. A woman crumpled against the wall, her auburn hair matted with blood, one arm cradled protectively over a swollen belly. Pregnant. God, no. Rosie! Lila scrambled out, falling to her knees beside her mother. Elias was there in seconds, his rancher's strength gentle as he assessed the damage. A gash above her temple wept crimson, ribs likely cracked from the boot prints blooming purple across her side. She stirred at his touch, eyes fluttering open, green as spring grass, dulled by pain but fierce with a mother's fire. "Who?" she rasped, voice athread. "Elias Thorne," he said, pressing a clean cloth to the wound. "Neighbor, your girl's a fighter. Got you both here." He worked methodically, stemming the flow, splinting what he could with branches and his belt. Rosie winced but didn't cry out, her gaze flicking to Lila with a love so palpable it twisted something deep in Elias's chest. "He'll come back," she whispered, terror edging her words. "Toby always does. We left Tennessee 6 months ago, thinking Montana would be far enough. But he tracked us. Jobs at the diner weren't paying enough to hide forever." Elias loaded them into the truck, Rosie's weight against his shoulder like carrying a promise he hadn't asked for. Back at the ranch, he cleared the guest room, Sarah's old space, dust motes dancing in the lamplight, and laid Rosie down on fresh sheets. Lila curled beside her, whispering stories of fireflies and cotton candy summers, as if words could stitch wounds. Elias paced the kitchen, phone in hand, dialing the sheriff in town. "Got a domestic out here," he growled into the receiver. "Woman beat half to death. Yeah, send Doc Harlan too." The hours blurred into a vigil. Doc arrived at dawn, snow crusting his boots, and confirmed the worst. 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, early labor stress from the trauma. "She's stable," he said, clapping Elias on the back. "But that baby's coming soon. Needs rest, not roads." The sheriff, a grizzled vet named Cal, took statements, his face darkening at the mention of Toby's name. "We've got a bolo out. Man's got warrants from 3 states, assault, theft. You did right, Thorne. Folks round here, they say you're a hermit. Guess that's changin'." Elias grunted, waving them off. Hermit? Maybe. But as he brewed coffee and fried eggs, simple, hearty fare from his larder, he watched mother and daughter through the doorway. Lila's laughter, tentative as a fawn's first step, when Rosie managed to smile. It stirred echoes in him. Sarah's voice singing hymns in the kitchen, their daughter Mia chasing chickens before leukemia stole her at 12. Los H. had armored him, but this fragile pair cracked it wide. By midday, the storm broke, sunlight spilling gold over the snowdrifts. Elias found Rosie awake in the parlor, Lila napping on the rug with a mug of cocoa cradled in her arms. "You don't owe us this," Rosie said softly, her hand on the swell of her belly. "Strangers and all. We'll move on soon as I can walk straight." He sank into the armchair opposite, the weight of years settling in his bones. "Ain't about owing. Ranch's big, empty rooms, empty hands. Used to be full of life, till it wasn't." He paused, throat tight. "Lost my wife to cancer, daughter to the same years before. Promised myself I'd never invest again. Too much hurt in handin' out your heart." Rosie's eyes softened, mirroring his ache. "I know that promise. Made it myself after Toby's first rage. Swore I'd protect Lila, give her better. But runnin' ain't livin'. And this little one," she rubbed her belly, "deserves a home, not a highway." Their words hung, a bridge forming in the quiet. Elias rose, fetching a photo from the mantel. Sarah and Mia, arms linked in a wildflower field. "They'd like you," he said, voice gruff. "Strong women, fighters." That night, As Lila sketched crude horses on scrap paper and Rosie dozed, Elias stepped onto the porch, the stars a vast, indifferent canopy. His phone buzzed. Cal. Got him, Elias. Toby Hale, pulled over 50 miles east, reeking of whiskey and lies. Woman safe now, courtesy of you. Relief washed over him, sharp as the mountain air. But it was the unexpected that came next, in the soft hours before dawn. A cry pierced the house, not pain but life. Rosie, labor starting fierce and fast, gripped the bedsheets as Elias held her hand, his rancher's palms steady against her fear. Breathe, Rosie, he murmured, echoing Sarah's words from Mia's birth. You've got this. We got this. The baby arrived with the first blush of sunrise. A boy, tiny and squalling, with Rosie's green eyes and a tuft of Lila's dark curls. Elias cut the cord, tears blurring his vision, as Lila beamed through exhausted awe. He's perfect, Mama, like a miracle. In that moment, profound realization crashed over Elias like a summer thunderhead. All his walls, his solitude, they'd been prisons, not protections. Kindness wasn't a debt or a risk. It was the spark that reignited a cold hearth. He'd been surviving, but these three, they needed thriving. And damn if he didn't need it too. Weeks turned to months, the ranch blooming under new rhythms. Rosie healed, her strength returning in the garden Sarah once tended. Tomatoes ripening red against the fence. Lila started school in town, her drawings of galloping mustangs pinned to the fridge. The boy, named Jasper after Elias's grandfather, cooed from a cradle whittled by Elias's own hands, his gurgles the soundtrack to evenings of shared suppers and stories by the fire. Toby's trial came and went. Life sentence for priors piled high as Montana haystacks.
No sadouslo.
The wind howled across the endless Montana plains like a grieving widow, rattling the weathered shutters of Elias Thorne's ranch house. It was the kind of night that swallowed men whole, cold, unforgiving, the sort that made you question why you'd ever left the city lights for this godforsaken stretch of nowhere. Elias, a broad-shouldered rancher in his late 50s, sat by the flickering hearth, nursing a tumbler of bourbon that burned less than the memories it chased away. His wife, Sarah, had been gone 5 years now, taken by the same cancer that had eaten her smile from the inside out. The ranch, once alive with her laughter and the stamp of their daughter's boots, was now just him, the cattle, and the ghosts. A knock shattered the silence. Not the polite tap of a neighbor, but a frantic pounding, small fists against oak. Elias froze, his calloused hand midway to the door. Who the hell would be out there at this hour? He cracked it open, the storm's fury slapping him in the face. And there she was, a wisp of a girl no more than 8, her threadbare coat soaked through, dark curls plastered to a face streaked with mud and tears. Her eyes, wide, haunted pools of brown, locked onto his like he was the last buoy in a drowning sea. "Mister," she whispered, voice cracking like dry earth. "They beat my mama. She's dying. Please, help." Elias's world tilted. He wasn't the helping type anymore. Not since Sarah's funeral, when the casseroles stopped coming and the town whispers turned to pity. He'd built walls higher than his corrals, telling himself solitude was a man's armor. But this child, shivering on his threshold, pierced it clean through. Without a word, he scooped her up, light as a foal, trembling like one too, and carried her inside, slamming the door on the gale. "What's your name, darlin'?" he asked, wrapping her in Sarah's old quilt, the one that still smelled faintly of lavender. "Lila," she murmured, clutching the fabric like a lifeline. "Mama's name is Rosie. We were runnin' from him. From Daddy. He drinks, and when he drinks, he hurts her. Tonight, he found us in the barn down the road. I hid, but Mama, she told him to leave me be." Elias's jaw tightened, a familiar rage simmering in his gut. He'd seen it before, the cycle of bruises hidden under sleeves, the excuses whispered in diners. His own father had been that kind of man, fists like hammers on a Sunday drunk. It was why he'd sworn off family, off the mess of loving anyone enough to lose them. But Lila's story clawed at him, raw and unrelenting. "Where's your mama now?" he asked, already grabbing his coat and the medical kit from the truck. Bandages, antiseptics, the basics he'd learned tending wounded steers. "Behind the old Miller place," Lila said, pointing vaguely west. "Half a mile, maybe. She's bleedin' bad, mister." From her head loomed anymore. Instead, Elias filed the papers. Guardianship first, then adoption, weaving their fates into one unbreakable rope. The judge, a silver-haired woman with a knowing smile, stamped it with a flourish. "Mr. Thorne," she said, "you've turned a ranch into a refuge. That's the real American dream. Buildin' family from the broken pieces." One crisp autumn evening, as leaves swirled like confetti across the fields, Elias gathered them on the porch. Lila balanced Jasper on her hip, Rosie leaning into his side, her head on his shoulder. The sun dipped low, painting the world in hues of amber and hope. "Never thought I'd have this again," Elias said, voice thick. "Thought loss was the end. But look at us, whole because we chose to hold on." Rosie squeezed his hand. "Because you opened the door, Elias. One knock, one chance. That's all it takes." Lila grinned, her once-haunted eyes sparkling. "And now we got forever, right, Pa?" He nodded, pulling them close, the family's warmth chasing away the last chill of old ghosts. In the heart of America's wide-open spaces, where ranches stood as testaments to grit and grace, Elias Thorne learned the truest truth. Humanity's power lies not in enduring alone, but in reaching out. One act of compassion, unexpected and unasked, could mend what violence tore asunder. And in mending, it built something eternal. A legacy of love, fierce as the plains wind, boundless as the sky. In a world quick to turn away, may we all answer the knock. For in the giving we find our way home.